Welcome to the Art of Franchise Marketing. Each episode takes a deep dive into the franchise space and explores how the biggest and best brands handle national branding, franchise development, employee recruitment, and localized marketing on a daily basis. This podcast is brought to you by Netsertive, a localized digital marketing partner for franchise networks. Netsertive's Madeline Park talked shop with franchise executives to discuss what's working, what's not, and answers the question, what else can you be doing to excel at the art of franchise marketing?
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Art of Franchise Marketing. I'm your host, Madeline Zook, and today we have Jake and Ashley from Craft Axe Throwing. Guys, thanks for coming on today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you having us on.
So it's not every day that I get to say like, oh, we've never had someone from this concept come on, but we've literally never had someone come on from axe throwing. So I'm super excited to talk to you guys. Before we get started, I want to kind of dive into your personal backgrounds, how you got, to axe throwing, and how you got to franchising. So Jake, I'll let you start off. Give the people what they want. Tell us who you are and how you got here.
Yes, yeah. Jake, Jensen. So we actually started a long time ago into entertainment-based businesses, and it kind of led to a passion of what we wanted to do, and that was super fun for us, is to look at business models that were engaging, fun, trending towards where industries were going. And so I actually started in e-commerce, so I have a little bit of a tech background, a little bit of marketing, in that side. From there, went to escape rooms. We actually, from e-commerce, we wanted to see customers, and that was something we wanted to create something for local communities where it was, engaging, get to see customers have fun, and through that process. And then through that process, we actually saw kind of the trend towards, additional experience-based businesses, and what we could bring to communities looking to go out on date nights, host corporate groups and stuff like that, and actually led to the axe throwing industry. So here we are today, kind of growing in that space and continue to bring people together through those experiences.
So do you own escape rooms too, or just the craft axe throwing?
Yeah, we actually had a number of escape rooms in the Midwest. Since moving to the Southeast, we actually exited that just because we were so far away from them, and really put our focus and time and effort into the axe throwing industry as we see this growing. Similar to kind of the escape rooms.
Sure. Yeah, I did one escape room, and I swear it was supposed to be like a team bonding, and I think we all were like hated each other more coming out of that, because not only I was obviously drinking beforehand, so I was like, open this, it doesn't open, oh my god, but no, it was fun regardless. And then I love how you got from that into axe throwing, just like a natural progression. So Ashley, what about you? How did you get to axe throwing, and then obviously to craft axe throwing, and to doing the business development for a concept like this?
It's been an interesting journey. I actually kind of started a career in entrepreneurship a little bit. Had a carpet cleaning business, a horse breeding and training business. So that was a fun part of life. Lots of different things going on, learned a lot, always busy, and it was fun stuff to do. Life kind of changed, and I started a career with Wells Fargo over 10 years ago. So I had quite a good career run with them, really loved it. Got to do and learn a lot about sales and customer service, and really working my way through management and leadership roles. And then last year, the opportunity presented itself for me to move from Nebraska to South Carolina with this transition to join Craft Axe Throwing and take on this very new thing to me, franchise development, and even axe throwing as an industry. So it's been a wild learning curve, and I've loved every second of it.
I always say it's never a smooth like entry into franchising. It's always like, oh, and then I rolled my ankle and fell off a cliff, and what do you know? I'm in paradise of franchising. So
something like that.
Yeah, so I'm so interested, how many locations does Craft have today, Jake? And, what is your brand's mission? I think a lot of people see that and they think, oh, cool, I get to throw sharp things at things that don't die, and it's legal. But there's got to be a bigger mission behind that. And stemming off of that, how many locations are you hoping to grow to, or your growth goal for the next year?
Yes, yes. Yeah, we're at 14 locations, and we've always been in the business to really connect people.
Hmm.
So our overarching mission is to create memorable experiences for our guests and our team, so they can't wait to tell other people. So as we get into local markets, that's where actually the name came from, craft beers mixed with axe throwing. So we love kind of supporting local breweries, teaming up with them, and I mean, if they're next door, that's a great symbiotic relationship that we enjoy as well. So it's really kind of connecting those partnerships, and that was kind of the pivot point for us into axe throwing. Is we realized with these great spaces that we can create, we can host more people, different type and diverse events. And not saying escape rooms wasn't great to kind of bring people together, but it had its limitations with putting people into small rooms and really not connecting all parties. So we're able to get those networking effects, so on and so forth. So that's kind of the overarching mission as far as that experience, bringing people together. The growth goals for us, we're very conservative on those, just because we still have corporate stores that we're growing out. So the franchise side was something that we saw is growing into developing those relationships with long-term business partners and kind of growth there. So that's our goal, is to move into more of the franchising side as we've pivoted from some of the corporate stores. But I would say our goals are at least 5 to 10 stores in the next year.
And I love hearing modest growth goals like that, because oftentimes I'll talk to emerging brands or people who might have come from corporate stores, and they're going into franchise, and we're going to sell 50, we're going to sell 100, and I was like, that sounds like death. I was like, that fast track to nobody buying, because it
Yes.
really is true. And obviously this comes from your entrepreneur, both of your backgrounds of understanding sustainable growth is the biggest part of franchising. There's a reason it's been around forever. And don't break what's not broken, which is the true franchising model, which is slow and steady wins the race, which is really great. um, and then you talked about your brand and the bringing people together, the word of mouth. But there's two kind of parts that I want to hit on this. And the first one for you, Jake, is what does the real estate landscape look like for you now? Because this is a lot of issues around finding the right spaces, the interest rates, the brokers. But for you, you mentioned, it's almost, well, you could probably set up shop most anywhere. You really want to be next to those craft breweries, the place that people are gathering. What does that real estate selection look like for you? And are you seeing the same sort of hindrances that I think a lot of other industries are seeing?
Yeah, I think it's kind of twofold there, where we look at very positively. So we complement a lot of different businesses in there in the marketplace. We haven't had too much of a tough time finding the real estate, just because we can be standalone, independent, draw guests to the areas. It's always nice having those entertainment districts,
Mm-hmm.
but we have several that are destination based. So we don't solely rely on kind of those partnerships. This gives us the flexibility for that space. We're able to again, we can draw a lot of destination based, bringing in food partners, food
Mm-hmm.
trucks and stuff like that if we had to, if we're destination based. So we haven't had a lot of challenges on the landscaping there, unless we're in big metros or we're trying to squeeze into a downtown, very, very small footprint, where it's very, very competitive in that space. But overall, pretty good on that side. I would say some of the challenge points for us right now are just looking at where and what our customer base looks like in different markets. So we have a lot of interest in the smaller markets, and we're very selective right now with our franchisees, because we don't want that fail point, in the first, 10, 15 stores.
Mm-hmm.
So we've obviously put a footprint out there for our corporate stores. So I would say that's the biggest thing for us, is saying no to certain franchisees,
Sure.
just because their market isn't, something we want to dive into right away.
Yeah. No, and I think that's, you know, great. And also, it's important for, the culture that you're creating. A lot of people say you're franchisees, 1 through 10 are much different from franchisees 100 through 150. So, being very selective with every stage of your franchisees, especially those first ones, is, very instrumental in your growth and success. Now, Ashley, talk to me about selling these suckers, because there are some competition, but a lot of times I talk to these brands about, like, you owned a carpet cleaning, there's home services. They're not sexy, they're not necessarily fun, and you're like, but they're steady and they're recurring and the competition's not too bad. But for you guys, this is sexy as shit. I want to own a craft axe throwing franchise. So talk to me about what that talk track is when a lead comes in, they're interested in the industry, interested in you guys. What are the real benefits around this industry, and what it can provide for their lifestyle?
It is so fun to get to talk to people about it, especially people who really want to be in kind of that hospitality type industry. Um, It goes a couple of different ways. So far, we've had a variety of different franchisees as far as their level of involvement in the business. And obviously, that starts off early in the conversation of what do they want this path to look like. And that's one of the coolest things about the concept is the flexibility. We have one owner who is almost completely absentee. He has a great manager in place, a great employee structure, and I think that's one of the cool things about the business is you can come in, enjoy it, you can have that spot in your community, but you don't necessarily have to be super involved in running it. And then you have the people who are crazy about axe throwing and are the life of the party, and they want their community to come in and they want them they want to build the relationships in that. And that's just a whole other different side that's just so fun to connect with people on what do they really want, and this can definitely provide that. So it's a smart business model, while still having tons of fun, obviously.
Sure. And then on the competitor side, do you guys see any pull from that? Because I own a mosquito and tick franchise, and it's a nightmare. I'm friends with all the other franchisors that are competing, and I'm like, guys, cut it out. Like, you're killing me. I have to keep upping my marketing spend. But for you guys, I know that there's some competitors. I think a lot of them might be independents, but is that an issue at all, or do you see that becoming a bigger issue in the future?
I can't say.
Yeah, I will say.
Oh.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I can't say I feel like it's been an issue to this point. I have come across people who have found different options, and I think it really comes down to the path that they want to choose for themselves. We are really involved with our franchisees, and we just offer so much support, and so much how-to just from the experience and the systems that we have in place. And so for a lot of people, that is a perfect fit as they start that journey. And then some of the other options can offer some different paths as well. So I think I haven't seen an impact from it at this point that's been concerning, I guess.
Nice. Jake, did you want to add on that?
Yeah. I will say, using kind of our existing history with the escape rooms,
Mm-hmm.
we saw some of the same growth trajectories with the amount of escape rooms that were opening, and we focus on our core, which is our guest and our customer. Competitors to us are great because it's additional awareness in the communities, because we typically find those industries that have really high growth rates, and awareness, and most people haven't even heard about axe throwing, depending on generations or who they are. So that's always great. I've run into those guests and I'm like, phenomenal, I'm glad you're out here. And they usually go tell 5 or 6 other people that they threw weapons and drank beer in our locations. So it's a great marketing aspect there. And again, kind of, we focus on the guest and our team and make sure those are solid. The other thing about us is, like, we have skin in the game with corporate stores.
Mm-hmm.
And so we heavily invest our own money, as well as putting all the franchise best practices in play, not only across the system. So we don't go sell 100 units, and we don't have the support behind it because we've got the same skin in the game supporting our locations. So a little bit different from how I've seen other models, and kind of our support system there. And ultimately, I think that sets us apart from many other people. Again, I love supporting other axe houses out there. But I was an entrepreneur, and year three, you get burnout because you're like, how do I invent, or how do I grow, and what's my R&D budget, and that's kind of the power of the franchise system is you're able to rely on a ton of different best practices that we can roll out. Not just my ideas; it's tons of people within our company that have amazing ideas, and so we're able to kind of use those best practices.
That's great. And then for your corporate stores, do you have someone on staff that runs each of them, or is it someone that just manages all of them? How do you structure that? Because as you're, expanding on the franchisee side, that can be a very delicate balance between, which child gets the most attention.
Yeah, I would say it's a very close relationship between the franchise system and our corporate stores. So the benefit of the franchise system is you have individuals with their own skin in the game, so they want to make things the best that they can.
Hmm.
Same thing for us is we have a dedicated team that really focuses on our stores to improve them. We take those best practices and we provide reports, analysis to our franchisees to really help their business models and look at opportunities. They could be sharpening the top side and bottom side. So it's again, I would say it's a close relationship. We started out with our growth goals for just corporate, and once we got to a certain amount of corporate stores, we were like, wow, this is going to be very challenging to get to additional states, and figure that model out. And so that's why we started kind of pivoting towards the franchise model, to really get those dedicated people in local markets.
Yeah, and I think that that's really cool that you've dedicated a team that manages your corporate stores. I've come from some franchises that had it, completely separate their corporate store. Some are trying to take it in-house and just roll it into kind of a managerless office that's just everyone's responsible for it. And I think the way you're doing it is definitely the sweet spot between the two of them. Um, and now, Ashley, what's it like being on kind of on the ground floor of this, because you see the wins of the corporate side. Obviously Jake and his team have the entrepreneur side, you do too, but now you're selling a model to people who are also entrepreneurs that might not always coincide with the entrepreneur dream, right? You're selling them something that's pre-made, that has the processes and procedures, but to Jake's point, they are going to have skin in the game. They want to make it the best they can be. So how do you talk through other entrepreneurs like that so that they can kind of see, if they're new to franchising, see, you know, how green the grass can be with both kind of benefits?
Hmm. I think it's one of those exciting concepts where whether you have more of that entrepreneurial spirit or maybe never have that experience, just because there's so much flexibility with it and so much that you can do with it. The different events that you can do, the different nonprofits that you can partner with and really benefit your community. We constantly have innovation going on that we welcome our franchisees being just as innovative. So, even changing out the types of targets that we have to be more efficient, to our pricing structures, to the variations of entertainment that we even offer within the facility. There's just so many options that I think, especially for someone with that really entrepreneurial spirit that can just take that and run with it and really make it their own. They have that with this model, and with us specifically. So yeah, I think
Great.
it's
Yeah.
fun.
I like the flexibility because you know, it's hard sometimes for people like us three who are very entrepreneur focused, um, to realize that sometimes people's goals aren't that. It's not to create and build. It's they want work life balance. They want, like, to your point, something that's very community focused. So to be able to kind of mold that business into something that suits your needs is really, really great. Um, Now tell me, marketing wise, they're in the community. A lot of it is word of mouth. Of sure, it's going to be a lot of pictures, maybe corporate events. Jake, what does your marketing stack look like? Is it really truly a lot of social media and referral, or is there another layer to that, digital or mailer that you guys rely on now too?
Yeah, yeah. It depends on the market. So if we're going into smaller markets, we're able to activate very effectively with local press to really jumpstart. From there, it's kind of a snowball effect. So again, as we're into smaller markets or we find these markets that we're engaging the community within, we see tons of kind of that organic word of mouth. So we have a waiver that gets signed, and it's 55, 60% plus have heard about us through friends or family. So again, every time we re-up that stat and we see that, we're like, that is exactly, supports the mission. It's the most organic and really good growth to see within the company. And we see the same thing when it comes to our advertising stack as well. So when we look at the Google Analytics and we're looking at a breakdown of organic versus paid versus all the other channels, organic far surpasses, some of the other channels that we're within. So it's great to see those metrics pulling in. Not to say we still invest quite a bit in the digital side, and we do it from, again, our corporate learning to sharing the information with our franchises, saying, hey, this seems to be a great fit, this campaign, this event. We actually do internal training as far as our localized marketing as well, what approaches have worked, what has not, what are the innovations, and all the way down to kind of our event planning, taking those best practices there. So if I had to put some rough numbers on it, again, 60+% organic word of mouth, very, very much there. We have a pretty high emphasis on digital versus print. But then also we have, the networking events and other stuff that we really focus on for the team building, and some of the other, outreach opportunities that we go after for corporate and other stuff as well. So that's a huge category that I think we could definitely focus some more time on now that we're post COVID. So that was an industry we shifted away from for a little bit, but it has come back very nicely.
Maybe we could like work together and own the virtual axe throwing market. I don't know how that would work. There's something
Yeah,
that
the remote.
the
I've
remote
heard of people doing those. I've heard of it. Yeah.
yeah, maybe also known as a hitman, but I don't know. But you say, waivers, and I'm sure, this question actually came up when I was kind of going with my team about the franchises we were going to feature on the podcast. And one of the questions was, wow, that insurance must be through the roof. Are your insurance rates and stuff, and like, because you guys are literally having the general public throw axes, is there any caveat there that's like, oh, when you own this, yes, your insurance rates are higher or your risk rate, whatever they may be? Or is this just kind of a myth that people just like assume because it's axe throwing?
It's always one. I remember the front counter when we first opened. Your insurance rate? Oh yeah, yes, yes. That's why our prices are the way they are. No, but in all realistic, it's been trending towards a more positive. So more carriers have picked up the industry. They're realizing that it is a rather safe sport, especially if you're putting limitations in it, following safety guidelines. And that's where again we've done so much homework on best practices and innovation internally for how our lanes are developed to, what does it look like when the bartender is serving people, and kind of the whole mix there. So yeah, I won't, it's still expensive. And nobody likes paying insurance because it's always expensive. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's outrageous like maybe a roller coaster might be, or an
Oh,
amusement park.
that's good. Yeah, and you have the waiver, so I know it's funny. I was on a corporate retreat once, and we talked about I played basketball in the past. We talked about that earlier, and I have terrible ankles. Like I've broken them both more times than I can count. And I'm on this retreat, and they had me sign a waiver, and it was rock climbing. And of course, I fell and I broke my ankle again, and I was like, I can't
No.
even sue because I signed the damn waiver. Ended up being fine. I went to the bar before I went to the hospital. It's like one of those moms that, like, they're on their like ninth kid and they're like, nah, I don't need to go to the hospital yet. I'm like, all right, let's get you a margarita and then we'll go. But that's good to know because you see those things that go viral on TikTok where it's either someone like just crushing it or the axe that bounces back and everyone's like, oh my god, I almost lost my head. So I was like, I have to just at least ask about the risk
Yep.
here. Well, that's really great. We're coming up on time, but I do have another question. And Ashley, if you can't answer this, I'm sure Jake can. But what are some of the nuances of your industry in terms of like ownership? Like, when they go in, do you guys have like, here's your list, you need to buy X amount of targets, and here's all of the axes you need to buy, and like axes are going to be like 15% of your initial cost structure? Like, is that, something that you guys really list out, or is it sort of kind of a grander, here's what we recommend, but kind of mold it to what you see fit?
I'm sure Jake will be able to expand on this, but absolutely. I mean, it starts with the space. And once they have that space and we have a design in place that really determines how many lanes they're going to have or what other entertainment concepts they may include with it. But then from there, absolutely, we know exactly what they're going to need depending on the lanes that they have.
And Jake, do you have like a chief axe officer? Like, how do you guys know the best tools to use and stuff? Because I come from cleaning where we're like, oh, we know what best sponge to use, but like, yours are way cooler.
Yeah. No, yeah, no, that's very much the case. We pride ourselves on kind of in our internal efforts and how we've structured everything again for corporate stores that very much carries over to the franchise system. So I think we pack so much value in and how we set stuff up. We actually have an internal team that can do the full, build out procedure, except for, mechanical, HVAC, all that stuff. But we do all the lanes, bars, live edge countertops. So we can actually do, from A to Z, getting a facility installed. And I think that's also what you see with our franchise system is we think about from A to Z, making sure each one of those processes happens. So our customer blueprint of, from the time they hear about us through advertising or word of mouth to the website, to the booking process, the waiver, the post-visit checkups, the review requests, and all the things down the line. And again, that comes from a very strong team of analyzing the customer and making sure that we get a 360-degree feedback to provide. So we get review requests, we have built-in net promoter scores, so stores are seeing and getting immediate feedback from customer experiences. And we really built everything so we could be here in South Carolina and manage a multitude of our own stores, but also from an absentee owner, providing, on-demand data on their apps, giving team members the ability to see their schedules and their tips that are coming in immediately. So, a long story short, we have a very, very devout team, and we pride ourselves of, just all the strengths that each team member brings to not only our corporate stores, but also the franchise system as we help other business owners do the same.
Well, thank you for going into that because it is a relatively new industry. And I think sometimes people get super excited and they're like, oh, look at this wild west of franchising concepts. Like, I'm going to go in and just be rowdy. But no. Like, this is all detailed just as if you were going to buy, a tax business. Like, you have to have it,
Yep.
Detailed out. And, it truly is, a business model that not only is entertaining, it's not just trendy, but it's bringing the communities together. And I have a couple final questions. One being, what is the craziest experience you've had in the entertainment industry? Like, and I say that it sounds like you own like strip clubs. So, but I mean, like, in terms of like escape rooms and axe throwing, what is the craziest thing that's happened that you've heard of or witnessed?
I heard of or witnessed. Oh my goodness, you're putting me on the spot.
I sure
The
am.
escape rooms. When we used to run them ourselves, I would find, and we would laugh so hard at seeing people find all the red herrings in the room. They would, I mean, that was my favorite part of that business model. Craft Acts, I will say we've had a lot of celebrities come into our stores, so that is one of the coolest things on that side. And, I will say early on, we did have one of the bounce back videos that went viral. However, so that might be the craziest. However, our team, put our heads together and we came up with amazing systems to reduce that. And we've never had one since to that degree. So basically, we've invested a lot into making sure the sport is safe and never had any major accidents, knock on wood. So
That's great. I love that it was like, yes, we went viral. Shit, we went viral. Let's fix it. Well,
there's no bad things. Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so Ashley, my final questions for both of you. Ashley, if you had a piece of advice to give to a franchisee, what would that be? And then after Jake, if you had a piece of advice to give to a franchisor, what would that be? But Ashley, I'll let you go first.
Ooh, a piece of advice for a franchisee. I think I would lead with really enjoy and connecting with the community. Get involved, get out there, get the name out there. People love to talk to you. Our staff go in branded, they'll have tattoos, piercings to these chamber events, and people love to talk to them because guess what? We're one of the most fun businesses in the room. So I think that's just a huge deal, and it should be fun for the person to go out and get to talk about craft axe throwing. So I think the more you're out in the community, the more that you're doing, the better it will be.
Awesome. I love that. What about you, Jake?
Yeah, so from a franchisor perspective, now I'm very new, I would say. I don't have 20 years of franchisor experience, so I'm not gonna, don't take my word for anything if you've been in the industry for a while. I would learn, I would love to learn from you. But very similar to the mission that we have for our guests and our team. So we value the guests and our team so much when it comes to our internal business. But we actually have a mission statement for our franchisor, and it's when our location leaders are successful, we're successful. And for us, I think that's very core to the franchise system, and that's why we're very selective on our franchisees, making sure that we're setting them up for success. Because without that, it dwindles very quickly from the research that I've done, so on and so forth. Same thing in our stores. So that's kind of our mission for both businesses. And I would share, and the emphasis there has to be there as well.
I love that, and I can say with the utmost certainty, you guys are completely spot on. Well, thank you for coming on the Art of Franchise Marketing. For I think for a while, you guys were probably like the fun uncle in the space, but very, very quickly climbing those ranks into being one of the kind of staple household industries and probably names that we're going to be seeing around. So we look forward to watching you grow, and thanks for joining the Art of Franchise Marketing.
Yes, and thank you.
Thanks for listening to The Art of Franchise Marketing. This show is brought to you by Netsertive. We help franchise brands and multi-location businesses run localized digital marketing at scale. To learn more, visit netsertive.com.